Hi, I'm Heather Sims, a real estate broker in the Dallas area, and today I'd like to talk about things that people don't normally want to tell you about your home. What the heck does that mean, right? Well, when we're selling a home, we almost never hear any feedback after a showing that comes directly from buyers themselves. Instead, any feedback we get is usually through the realtor, their buyer agent. And honestly, a lot of times that feedback can be pretty darn vague. Sometimes that's because the buyers are still making a decision. Sometimes their agent's trying to be polite. Sometimes there just isn't that much to say. Maybe the buyers walked through the home and kind of felt like they were pretty neutral about it. They didn't love it, they didn't hate it. Nothing was necessarily wrong, but nothing really stood out to them either. Those buyers just usually move on to the next house, and we never really exactly know why, right? But today, I don't want to talk about those situations. I want to talk about the things that buyers tend to have a strong reaction to. And those are the kind of things that can cause buyers to walk out of a showing and immediately say, nope, this is not the one. These are also the things buyers don't always tell sellers directly. They may soften the feedback, keep it to themselves, or simply say they decided to go in a different direction. But after helping buyers and sellers over many years as a real estate broker, I've learned to read between the lines. So today, I'm going to share some of the real reasons buyers decide not to make an offer, and more importantly, what sellers can do to avoid doing those things that turn buyers off. The first one is the house just didn't feel good. Now, I know that sounds a little strange, but buying a home is a very emotional process. Buyers don't walk in with a clipboard scoring every room, typically, unless they're an engineer. They walk in there to see if they can live their life there. Can I have Christmas morning here? Can I imagine relaxing on the back patio after work? Sometimes there isn't one major thing wrong with the house. It just never really creates that emotional connection. That's why staging, lighting, cleanliness, and even the overall flow of the home matters so much. And I'm here to tell you, cleanliness is huge. It's such a simple thing, but if a house seems dirty to buyers, it is often a deal breaker. Bottom line here is it's important to remember that you're not just selling bedrooms and bathrooms, you are actually selling a lifestyle. So you want to try to do things that make the home feel right to a buyer. The second secret that buyers rarely admit is they were overwhelmed during the showing. I think sometimes sellers assume that more is more, right? More furniture, more decor, more collections, more family photos, but buyers don't see those memories. They see distractions. When every shelf is full, when every wall has something hanging on it, buyers have a much harder time imagining their life in that home. One of the biggest compliments I hear after staging a house is that it actually feels bigger. Obviously, we didn't actually make the home bigger. We simply removed the visual clutter so buyers could focus on the home itself. Another thing buyers often won't say out loud is, the house smelled funny. And that isn't always just a bad smell. It can be a strong smell that's off-putting. I remember showing a house one time that had a bunch of those plugins all over the place, and it created like a lemony smell throughout the house. Lemons smell good, right? We generally like that smell. But it was so strong, my buyer that was like, we gotta leave. It's too much. And then there are the bad smells, right? Nobody wants to tell a homeowner your house smells like wet dog, or I could smell cat litter the second I walked in. That is super awkward. But smell is incredibly powerful. It creates an immediate first impression before buyers even start looking around. Pets, smoke, strong cooking odors, mildew, heavy air fresheners, they can all become deal breakers. And here's something people don't always realize. If you live in a home every day, you may not even notice it smells anymore, right? You're nose blind to it. So it's always a good idea to have someone you trust give you an honest opinion on smell, especially if you have pets, before your house ever hits the market. Third thing buyers don't always want to specifically share is they were worried about maintenance. Sometimes buyers walk into a house and immediately start mentally adding up dollar signs. Maybe the hot water heater looks original. Maybe the HVAC system is 20 years old. Maybe the fence is leaning. The caulk around the shower is cracking. There are little cosmetic issues everywhere. None of those things by themselves may be a huge problem, but together they can create the impression that the home hasn't been well maintained. So buyers start wondering what the bigger issues are that they can't see that are like behind the walls, right? One thing I've learned is that deferred maintenance costs sellers far more than regular maintenance ever would. Another one that buyers don't normally admit is they couldn't see themselves living there because of the furniture layout. This one surprises people. Sometimes a room feels tiny, not because it actually is, but because oversized furniture makes it look that way. Maybe the dining room has become a storage room, or the home office has turned into a catch-all space. And this is one of my personal pet peeves. There's furniture in front of windows. Don't do that. Not only does that block natural light, but it can really make a space seem like it's just not big enough for all your furniture. The big problem with this kind of thing is that buyers aren't always great at seeing potential. In fact, I'll tell you, most buyers maybe think they are, but they tend to judge what's right in front of them. They're not thinking about what they could do with something. One of the reasons staging works so well is because of that. Buyers understand how each room is meant to function when we stage them. So, given all that, if I could leave you with one piece of advice, it's this. Try to see your home through a buyer's eyes instead of your own. The memories you've made there are priceless, right? But buyers aren't buying your memories. They're trying to picture creating their own in that space. The easier you make that for them, the more likely they are to fall in love with your home. And if you're thinking about selling and you're in the Dallas area and you'd like an honest opinion about what buyers are really likely to notice in your home, so don't keep secrets from you, I would be happy to help. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know in the comments. What's the strangest piece of buyer feedback you've ever heard if you've sold a home before? I'd love to hear your stories about that. And I would love to see you next week on another edition of All Things Real Estate. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.